I met him when I was finally calm. Not happy, just steady. The kind of calm you build after disappointment, when you stop expecting anything from anyone. I had learned how to keep my life quiet. Predictable. Safe. He didn't interrupt that peace. He slipped into it. We talked without urgency. No flirting, no promises, no direction. And somehow, that made everything feel lighter. I told myself this was what grown love looked like: effortless, unforced, uncomplicated. One night, he said, "I don't fall easily." I smiled and told him that was fine. I wasn't planning to fall either. What I didn't realize was how quickly comfort can turn into attachment when you're not watching closely. He never made grand gestures. He showed up in small ways, checking in, remembering details, listening when I spoke. It wasn't intense, but it was consistent. And consistency has a way of making you feel chosen, even when nothing is being promised. I started sharing pieces of myself without thinking twice. Things I usually kept guarded. He never asked for them. He just received them quietly. Sometimes I wondered if he noticed how much space he was taking in my thoughts. Or if he was still standing safely on the outside. "You're easy to be around," he said once. I took it as a compliment. I didn't realize it was also a warning. Because being easy often means asking for nothing, and I was very good at that. The first sign came subtly. A hesitation before responding. A delay that didn't exist before. Not absence, just less presence. Enough to make me question, not enough to confront. I told myself I was imagining it. That not everyone shows affection the same way. That wanting reassurance didn't mean something was wrong. But I noticed how I started filling the gaps myself. Explaining his silence. Softening my expectations. Adjusting my needs so they wouldn't feel inconvenient. And that's when a quiet thought settled in. The kind that doesn't leave once it arrives. I wasn't afraid of losing him yet. I was afraid of how naturally I was making myself smaller to keep him comfortable. The shift became impossible to ignore once I stopped making excuses for it. He was still there, just not the way he used to be. His words stayed kind, but something essential was missing. The effort felt careful, measured, like he was deciding how close was too close. I caught myself waiting. For replies. For reassurance. For something that would tell me I still mattered in the way I wanted to. That scared me. I'd promised myself I wouldn't become that person again, the one who waits quietly, hoping someone else will choose them without being asked. I asked him once, carefully. "Did something change?" He paused longer than necessary. "I just need space sometimes," he said. I nodded, even though the word space landed heavily in my chest. I didn't ask what kind. I didn't ask how long. I didn't want to sound demanding. But the truth was clear. Space for him meant distance from me. I started pulling back before resentment could grow. I answered messages slower. Shared less. Smiled through conversations that no longer felt grounding. He noticed. "You're quieter lately," he said. I wanted to tell him it was because I was tired of shrinking to fit into a connection that only worked when I asked for nothing. Instead, I told him I was just busy. And just like that, the gap between us grew, not from conflict, but from avoidance. Sometimes people don't drift apart because they stop caring. They drift apart because one of them stops feeling safe to want more. I kept telling myself this was temporary. That everyone pulls back sometimes. That needing space didn't automatically mean losing interest. But reassurance only works when it comes from the person you're trying to believe in, and his never did. I noticed how often I checked my phone now. How silence felt louder than before. How I replayed conversations in my head, searching for the moment I'd started wanting more than he was willing to give. I hated that version of myself. The one who waited. The one who doubted. The one who felt too much and asked for nothing. And still, I stayed. The truth surfaced in a moment that should have been easy. We were together, sitting close, the kind of closeness that used to calm me. I leaned in slightly, testing the distance. He didn't move away. But he didn't move closer either. "I like how things are," he said softly, almost apologetically. The sentence felt final in a way I wasn't ready for. Because how things are meant uncertainty. It meant effort without direction. It meant me adjusting and him remaining comfortable. I smiled and nodded, even as something inside me settled into place. He wasn't unsure. He was settled exactly where he wanted to be. That night, alone in my apartment, I admitted what I'd been avoiding. I wasn't confused anymore. I was just afraid of the answer. I didn't want intensity. I didn't want promises made too early. I wanted intention. And intention was the one thing he never offered. I realized then how quiet the ending would be. No fight. No dramatic goodbye. Just a slow recognition that love shouldn't feel like waiting for someone to choose you. Some people don't leave loudly. They stay just long enough for you to learn how to walk away on your own. The decision didn't feel brave. It felt heavy. Like something I'd been carrying for too long and was finally setting down. I didn't confront him with ultimatums or explanations. I just stopped pretending I was okay with half answers and quiet distance. When we talked, I was honest in a way I hadn't been before. "I don't feel chosen," I said. He didn't argue. He didn't reassure me either. "I care about you," he replied, carefully. "I just don't know how to want more." And that was the moment I understood something important. Wanting me wasn't his problem. Wanting anything that required commitment was. I went home that night and let the truth settle. Caring isn't the same as showing up. Liking someone isn't the same as building something with them. And being calm together doesn't mean you're growing in the same direction. I thought about all the ways I'd adjusted myself. How I'd stayed quiet. How I'd softened my needs so they wouldn't scare him away. How I'd confused peace with emptiness. I didn't want to become someone who confused those two again. The next time I saw him, I didn't wait for the conversation to drift there. "I need something different," I said gently. "Something with intention." He looked at me for a long moment, like he was searching for the right response. "I can't give you that," he said. There was no cruelty in his voice. Just truth. And for the first time, that truth didn't break me. It clarified everything. I didn't ask him to change his mind. I didn't try to convince him that intention could grow with time. I had already done enough waiting to know that hoping someone becomes ready usually means you're the only one doing the work. We said goodbye without anger. Without promises to stay in touch. Just an understanding that what we shared mattered, but not enough to carry us forward. When I walked away, I expected to feel empty. Instead, I felt clear. Sad, yes. But grounded. Like I'd finally stopped arguing with my instincts. The days after were quiet in a different way. Not the tense quiet of uncertainty, but the steady quiet of knowing. I missed him sometimes, the comfort, the ease, the way he fit into my life without effort. But I didn't miss the waiting. I didn't miss second-guessing my worth. I didn't miss shrinking myself to keep something fragile intact. Healing didn't arrive all at once. It showed up in small decisions. Saying what I felt. Wanting what I wanted without apology. Trusting that needing more didn't make me too much. I learned something important from loving him. That calm isn't the same as connection. That peace without direction can slowly turn into loneliness. And that choosing yourself doesn't require resentment, just honesty. He wasn't a bad person. He just wasn't ready to choose anyone fully. And I was done being an option in a life that needed certainty. This wasn't a dramatic ending. It was a quiet one. The kind that doesn't break you, but brings you back to yourself.